This week's episode is brought to you by Scottish Accents, a great way to say the word great. I'm not doing a Scottish accent right now because I am terrible at it. So it's brought to you by Scottish Accents in spirit. Scottish accent. Oh, it's going to be a great day. See how bad I am at that? Hey everybody, welcome to Nexus at Night. We're here recording a podcast, and in the next room, my roommate is watching Glee. And that's just something I have to think about for this entire episode. I'm Atlas.
I'm Matt.
I'm Root Beer.
And I'm Alex Kramer, also known as Nem in some other social circles.
Nice to meet you, Alex Kramer and or Nem. I will try and keep the Seinfeld jokes to a minimum.
The theme song is playing in my head like water dripping.
Oh yeah, I heard about this. There was like a door sensor that someone rigged up, so like when they opened their door, one of three bass riffs from Seinfeld would play. And I was like, that's cool. That's cool. But that happens every time you open or close the door, no matter what's going on. So like, I'm leaving and I'm taking the kids.
Make a man go crazy.
Yeah. So that's a thing. Anyway, today we are talking about Great Nature, a clan that I love, and yet we invited a guest here, like, with my better judgment, but against my emotions. Because we're talking about Great Nature in the premium format. And the reason we're doing that is, Mr. Kramer, why don't you go ahead and tell us what you did with Great Nature in premium format?
Yeah, so I competed in Chicago this year, and I was the only undefeated player going 9-0 in Swiss, and I ended up getting top 8.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
How far to the top 8 did you get?
I had only gotten to top 8, and I'll probably be explaining that a little later. There's some shenanigans with that one, but I had just gotten top 8, enough to get the mat.
Right, of course.
Most important part.
Yeah.
The real prize.
What was
Absolutely.
the mat, out of curiosity?
The mat was all the progenitor dragons.
Ah, okay. Well, that's
It's pretty cool, and compared to the ones that we got in Team League, it's like one of the thicker mats.
Ooh. Yeah, so it'll last longer, or whatever. And
Absolutely.
You won't have to retire it as a mouse pad. So, much like our Darker Idealers episode with Solemn Vanguard, I'm just going to ask you, why don't you go ahead and take us through BCS Chicago? What were you playing against? What were the games like? Let's go round by round here.
Absolutely, and I'm just kind of preface that most of my experience is in standard. A lot of my premium experience I've kind of gotten through osmosis through the St. Louis community that I play a lot of games with. We were just messing around the previous evening, just drinking and having fun and just playing a bunch of premium, just getting me ready for the event. They basically told me two things: plants are scary and don't give SL2 counterblast. So with that in mind, so to start off the rounds, round one, my opponent did not show, so that was kind of nice. They assumed they just wanted to sell their marker, just like me. So got the win there. Round two, I played against Ezel. He ended up getting his combo off with he went to grade 4. I was at grade 1, and I'm just like, this was a mistake. Just spear cross X, and I'm a lonely little duckbill, just sort of looking at him. But I just kind of controlled the damage pretty early. I didn't want him to kind of snowball into me, and I ended up taking it, recovering advantage. I usually Belurl is kind of your big sort of swinger, but if I'm feeling like I need advantage, I'll go into Managarmir Arum. So combine that with Leopold to get some pluses. I ended up getting a call 2 and then getting a 5 drive off to sort of recover. So I ended up winning that one. Round 3, I played against plants, and I remember not doing too well because I'm also kind of learning these matchups as I go along. And what I did was I ended up using my Spangled my G Guard to sort of try and dig for more defensive pieces.
The throw your hand at the wall and see what happens strategy. I know that.
Spangle's clutch.
Yeah, that thing's great. It's one of those G Guards that just lasts for way too long. Like a lot of flip G Guards, you don't really use that much anymore, depending who the clan is. But for Great Nature, that thing's going to be around, I think, forever.
Mm-hmm. And I managed to pull another heal trigger that I needed to guard his last attack, so I was able to win out that one. So that was nice. Round 4, played against another plant. That's going to be big recurring theme. Plants were
everywhere?
Very popular. Oh, yeah. Plants. Well, so the thing is, plants were very popular in Chicago, but not a single one top 8'd. So that was interesting.
Okay, so the reason plants are so prevalent, and I learned this from fellow Nexus Corey and Gabe, who he is to plants what I am to Great Nature. So the reason that this is everywhere, and especially now that the ban list came out, but even before that, it's because the deck is so cheap to put together. You literally just pick up the standard pieces. You don't run the VR. Everything is RRR or below. And then the only premium card you need is the Amber Clone from the trial deck, which is $3? And then your G Zone is just Katarina and Cray Elementals and your G Guards, and you're done. It's super easy to put together, and as Gabe puts it, a little brain dead. But maybe that's why they didn't get into top 8, because they didn't have the intellect to best the matchups.
The play seemed pretty simplistic, and also and also I think I was playing against a couple of people that I in my opinion I didn't think had the best sequences, but this guy, for example, nice guy, but I don't think he really played the matchup correctly at all. He tried to stall me at grade 2, and I'm like,
okay,
this is standard leaking over, and I'm like, wait, let me just ride grade 3 first and get a bunch of advantage. So I proceeded to do that. I did double crit him, so that didn't hurt.
Skill.
We take those. And he couldn't push me with his Katrina turn, so I just pushed back and won. Round 5 was plants again, 3rd time in a row. I'm apparently not having trouble with this matchup. I had actually kind of prepared a certain tech card, and I ran a Fonk instead of Ferniides for the Kagero matchup. I thought I was maybe going to see Dauntless Blade Master.
I have ran a Fonk as a 1-of literally just for Kagero, and people have called me crazy. And I'm finally glad I've met somebody else who agrees with me. Otherwise, you just flip it for Battle Earl. What does it matter? Or Aurum, or whatever. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. And it's funny you bring that, because I didn't see the entire matchup, but I'm still glad I had it, because it's I'm not going to fight against Chaos. I'm just not going to see that matchup. I don't need Ferniides, so
yeah.
One thing I remember from this one is that he misplayed, in that when he went to his grade 3 second, but he couldn't stride. He forgot to use Maiden of Trailing Rose's skill during the main phase and proceeded to battle phase and swung.
Ooh.
And he's like Trailing Rose skill, and I'm like, oh, that doesn't activate during the battle phase, does it? And I'm like, so you're swinging with the 10k golem. So it's regionals. You got to have clean play. So once again, you take those. He threw his whole hand down to try and get me on his next Katrina turn. So he triple drives. So he knew the entire cards in my hand. So I kind of swagged out on him a bit, and I went into Zoa and I called a heal trigger and hit him for game.
That's the most baller move.
This was because to explain my mindset. Like I said, mostly care about standard, not as much premium. I was not worried the entire time during the tournament. I had packed my bag with Smash Brothers in it, and I was ready to play that in between rounds or when I went XT drop. So the whole time I'm just all right, this is happening. So round 6, I played against Ezel. I played against John Shaden. I don't know, John Shaden.
Oh yeah, we know this fellow well.
Yeah. He was a nice opponent. It was a difficult match at the start, but as I noticed that Ezel kind of loses steam later, and he wasn't able to finish me off on a Zero Dragon turn, and I was able to beat him with a third stride Balurl. It was like 28k to everything, and it's overwhelming at that point. Though early in the game, I did a 2 to pass, and then he puts everything on Vanguard and double crits me, and I'm like, this game got hard, but
gotta believe.
Yeah.
we got through it. Round 7, I played against Plants again, and there wasn't too much significant about this match. If you're not messing with my field, and I have my combo pieces, and I'm able to set up early with my Conduct Bill, I'm good. Mm-hmm. So at this point, going from round 7 to 8, there was 3 undefeateds, and you're all aware the point of Swiss is to get to 1 undefeated. If one of the undefeated that got down pair won, then there would be 2 undefeated. We would have a 9th round. That did happen. My opponent was like, oh, well, we're both going to make top 8, so he just gave it to me, which is cool. He was the melody player that got top 8. So there was either 2 or 3 Bermudas. I played against the Ange player in top 8, and he was the other Bermuda, I believe. But nice guy. And apparently his build was like super unique, so got to take notes on that one. So I had kind of the equivalent of a 2-round bye, just in round 8 rather than round 2. So that was kind of nice. Round 9, I played against the person who ended up winning. I played against the Luard player. Okay. And this guy, he was really nice, but his deck was not working for him. I went first, and I just aggressively I just went for it, because I'm like, I'm still XO. I'm like, whatever. I'm just going to throw all my cards down.
I got Smash Bros in the bag, man.
Yeah. So I pushed him to 4, like early rushing him, and I don't know if it was a misplay or if it's the only thing that he could do. He kind of threw all of his hand cards down to achieve Ritual 10 with more Festa, and I was at 1 damage. I was like, I'm not losing, and him just throwing more hand cards down, I'm just like, well, I'm just gonna kill you next turn. So that's what I did. So that was Swiss rounds, and I was obviously extremely happy with my performance. And there's a lot of people like, dude, Great Nature's in table 1. I'm like, yeah, let's get me out of here. So we did deck check. That was easy. I think everybody just wanted to get out. So I did. So I went to top 8, and I played against the Ange player, who he got 3rd, I believe. He got 3rd. He crit me on his grade 1, grade 2, and grade 3 drive check.
Fun.
Oh.
Yeah, and I was watching his video, and he's just like, yeah, I kind of sacked him, and I'm just like, yeah. But I mean, if I was having my deck kind of work for me the entire time, I expected some sort of
retribution.
Yeah, in some fashion. I did get a 5th damage heal, and I was at 5. This was actually the first time in the tournament that I stalled at grade 2, because I didn't want to give him first stride when I was at 5.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
So what ended up happening was, and then he sea breezed me. I was like, wait, I thought people didn't run sea breeze anymore because of the new stride rules, but it didn't end up mattering too much. At the end, so I got a ride and stride, and then he got a stride, and I used 2 Spangleds to try and dig for. I needed 1 more PG. I Spangled for 11 cards, and then I Spangled for 4 cards. I threw down a lot of cards to try and dig for another, and obviously to adequately defend, but I just couldn't find it. Out of the last 4 cards in my deck, it was like, I think I checked, it was like 2nd to last, and I just couldn't get it. So I was out at top 8.
That's still a very valiant run, especially against something like Neo Nectar, which, even though it didn't top, it's still like, it's everywhere.
Oh, absolutely. And a lot of my playtesting the previous night, so where I lost against plants like 8-10 times in a row, I'm like, goodness, this deck just makes tokens out of nowhere. It's nice. I had the standard pieces. It was something that I was considering running, but Great Nature's Bay, so.
Don't gotta tell me twice. So, what do you think you could have done better, or if nothing? Then...
So I think overall I was pretty pleased with my performance. I'm trying to remember if I misplayed. I don't think I did. I think my play, despite being inexperienced in premium format, I think my play was actually pretty optimized. I think. Oh no, I do remember one in the top 8 match when I was deciding whether or not to ride. Because, like I said, I didn't think Seabreeze was a thing. I actually had an opportunity to ride into another grade 2, and I chose not to. So that could have probably made a difference. I think it would have. But a lot of my mistakes that I had made with my play was in the only other tournament I had played in Premium was our shop challenge. And it was I was playing against one of my very good friends and teammates, and this is a problem sometimes I have with card games, a few times where I don't recognize an opportunity to win, where I would have been able to Zoa him when I was super down, and I would have been able to get it, but I chose not to, and chose to defend. So I guess I guess to answer your question, I'm an aggressive player, but even looking for more opportunities to be even more aggressive. In terms of deck was fine. And it's kind of funny because when I was listening to I was listening to the episode of Solemn Vanguard, and to kind of help prepare for this, and you had mentioned your distaste for Hamske. I know it was standard in particular, and I gotta tell you that I 100% agree with that. I am anti-Hamske gang.
Like, again, it's not a bad card. I don't like using it, but I know it's the best option at the moment, so...
For standard, for sure. For premium, somebody commented like, "Oh yeah, Hamske topped," and I'm like, I didn't use Hamske.
Yeah, no, not for premium. I actually ran into like a guy who goes to my shop. He had premium Great Nature with Hamske just for that like extra Excel circle. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that's a thing, I guess, but the margin for error is way higher. Yeah, like if you fail, you fail hard.
I'm a stats man, and if something doesn't usually work almost 100% of the time, like the Hamske ride chain, I will probably not opt to run it in a regional environment. In a locals environment, of course I will.
Mm-hmm.
I think like the number I aim for is like if it needs to work like 95% of the time or something, and then I like feel pretty good about it. Like especially like the check top whatever. Like I want to play enough whatever so that I'm hitting like almost all the time.
I'm kind of, and along that same sort of thought, I'm kind of experiencing that right now. I had recently started playing. I had been testing OTT, and I picked it up, and I'm like, where are my girls? Where are my Sukus? They're gone. Just when I needed them the most.
So one thing I wanted to ask, you brought up when you said that you're kind of looking for ways to like win the game against your friend. Do you mean kind of like a situation where like you're thinking you have this issue in card games where you're thinking about surviving more than thinking about winning?
Well, no. So usually, people at locals know me as an extremely aggressive player, and that can sometimes kind of blind me from searching for win conditions.
Oh, I see.
And I have it a little bit that I've been actually kind of fixing by playing, and I've been fixing this problem by playing Magic the Gathering. Because controlling resources and a game of inches basically is how I'm sort of training myself to sort of be a little bit more smarter while being aggressive.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of like in these crowded board states, sometimes you can have situations where you're like, well, I can kind of edge out, edge slightly above my opponent where, now they're forced to do something.
Yeah. And I can describe the exact situation. It'll make much more sense. The turn that before I could have gone Zoa, I used a Monoculus to guard rather than something else. And I kind of just threw away the combo piece I would have needed to win with Zoa. So
I see.
Yeah, so that was kind of the major thing. Yeah, normally people at my locals are very used to me playing aggressive, and I'm not sure if people at regionals, because I was playing against people that have never met me before. I play fast, not in terms of like my gameplay, but my tempo in the game. So I think that was kind of what sort of helped me.
Yeah, a lot of people are kind of not used to that, so it can be very shocking.
Mm-hmm. It was along that same vein. I played Nova Grapplers in Standard. Like, it was the same sort of decision making on that. Just go all in.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of like in World War II, the Blitzkrieg, like Germany's attack strategy was to overwhelm with a bunch of troops all at once, which at the beginning of the war was really effective because it's like, holy shit, that's too much, and then you die. But once you get to like 1942, 1943, they're starting to run out of resources, and you're kind of expecting the Blitzkrieg, so you get better at repelling the attacks. That's basically what your locals is.
Yep.
As a fellow Excel player, I know exactly what you're talking about. Like, the way I taught myself to not overcommit when it's not the best thing to do is to play slower decks. I picked up Angel Feather for that reason, because in Standard, because it taught me to be patient, and it's like, all right, you're gonna get there, you're gonna win, but like, you're not gonna do this shit turn 4. Relax, like.
Right,
just
because Angel Feathers has a very specific win condition that you need to, like you say, prepare for.
Yeah, you have to curate it or whatever. Yeah. So with Great Nature, we'll leave a link to your deck list in the show notes if you'll allow it, or if you don't want to, that's fine also.
Absolutely. And I think you'll probably find that I think it's like maybe 7 cards removed off of like Solemn's list in terms of like the main deck anyway, besides the inclusion of Bicolor Baku over Compass Lion.
Hell yeah. Me too.
Well, because one, you can switch off the retiring, so like you can keep an intercept on Belarel's turn, and then 2, the actual answer is I don't have any.
That's another reason. What I liked about Baku's thing was that if you like, I hated when I would have like that hand where you just have too many triggers for comfort, where you're like, this isn't helpful. So like, you put the crit down early and like call it Duckbill, and then pick the crit, and then he kills it, and then it goes back in your deck, and then you draw a card.
Confirmed. I did that. I did that a couple of times where I would call a trigger. Sometimes I would call a. If I had an abundance of like combo pieces, I'd call them down instead. But yeah, sometimes it was sometimes I'd say probably like a third or a fourth of the time it was appropriate to call down a trigger, and it did help me cycle a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Having that option is really nice, especially if the card filtering can help a lot of consistency too.
Absolutely.
And especially because as you get later in the game, any like Baku or any grade 3 you put on Excel 1 immediately becomes successful, or anything around it. So there's not really that issue later in the game.
Yes, especially because even with Excel 2, because like Baku Excel 2 and then just a 4K from Blurl is 20K, or substitute Baku with Rhino and then you immediately make Rhino live on your first stride if you're going first, or if you get first stride.
Yeah. Realistically, how many times did you go into Excel 2? Because I know in Premium it seems like it's deck out fuel.
I might as well have not packed Excel 1 markers.
Interesting.
I went Excel 2 every single time because, like I said in learning how to play a game of inches, that extra card came in so much handy in situations where it would have been make or break. I would not have been able to guard. And with premium, games are usually over pretty quickly, with the exception of the Gold Paladin match the second Gold Paladin match I had. Games were usually over by second stride. I think that was the only game where I went into third stride.
Against John?
Yes.
I think that's how it's supposed to be. And that was our theory as to why Ichikashima from Premium Collection got banned, was because people were winning first stride with it.
I needed to make room in my binder, so I took my Ikishima that was in there, I ripped it in half, and threw it in the garbage.
Nice.
You probably didn't have to do that, but
no, you did.
Absolutely necessary.
Fuck that card.
I was glad I didn't see it in. I did play against it a couple times, and the matchup is not impossible for me at all. Like it is definitely beatable.
But it just sucks.
Yeah, that Oracle counting is hand cards in your G zone. I'm just like, huh, that's a thing.
Yeah. Or that thing where they open up with like 3 heals. You're like, cool, you have effectively 12 cards in your hand.
Yep.
Yay.
Yeah, but it's like you damage control early so that if you get into situations with the unguardable attacks that you should be able to take it. But I mean, if they rip crits, then, well, unfortunate.
It's what it is.
Or have Tetra Magus. That's another way to do it.
Yes. Do premium builds run Tetra? Do some?
Yeah, so playing against Gabe's OTT, he ran, I think, like 2 or 3 Tetra just to, like, ensure the win. Because it's either you draw a card and keep it, or you draw a card and put a crit on top. Like, you don't have to put a crit there. You can just hold on to the card. I think that's effective overall, so...
No, I actually do like that a lot because, yeah, the counterplay is, they get 1 crit and you're at 3 damage, or they get no crits and you're at 4 damage, then you're just like, okay, I'm fine. Yeah, the decks I was able to practice against before this tournament were I had never played against Bermuda Premium, which it made sense that was like the only one I lost to. I had been able to practice against Luard, Plants, OTT. My twin plays Chaos. That's kind of a funny matchup.
I really don't think that's going to be something you're like. What was that matchup like? You're just like, make more Excel circles. I'm fine.
That was the thing. He locks my field. I'm like, I make more field. And also at that time, I was running Ferniides only because I just knew he was in the tournament.
Right.
So it'd
Metagame.
be a non-issue.
Metagame on a smaller scale. So knowing that your deck list is in the show notes, could you explain some of your card choices that you think might need explaining?
Yes, and I'll go ahead and pull it up. I'll touch on a couple of questions I got asked. Is why only 2 Rhinos? Because people are like, oh, the Monoculus Zoa combo is kind of your bread and butter, and I say that Mike is so broken that, like, yeah, I agree with that too. 1, it's not, and 2, you can search it whenever you want. So as long as you don't just throw it away blithely, like, you'll be okay. And the extra big belly really helps with the restanding. It's essentially a 5th and 6th Crayon Tiger. Like, yeah,
I run 3 in my build, and also, like, there are games where you don't draw into Leopold, and sitting on Blue Belly isn't terrible. Like, you can at least get a free call and a life insurance and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Though I will mention, I did not misride the entire tournament. I rode
Lucky.
Leopold every single game. Every single game. Yeah, no, I will agree that it was lucky. And some of the other... Oh, I had a one-of in my deck, Lesser Rider. Like I said earlier, that's it's kind of threefold. 1, I just wanted to make sure I was prepared for the Kagura matchup.
Right.
2, it is if you can't reach success and you have Sabros and Duckbills, you can make Lesser Rider retire itself per its effect. It did come up once. I had 2 Sabros and a Duckbill I couldn't resolve, I top decked Lesser Rider. So I had I wrote a Crayon Tiger called Lesser Rider to rear, so I was able to successfully get that effect off.
Hashtag
and
puns.
3, my girlfriend likes red pandas, so I put one in.
Sure.
It is a cute card.
It is pretty cute. I always called that skill where he like becomes artificially successful the cheating skill. Because he becomes successful, but at what cost?
and then they realize that their success was built out of nothing, and that it's a sham, and then they exit the guild.
No. Then the
rich kids bought his way. His rich parents bought his way into college.
God fucking damn it, Matt! Fine. Just take it.
What?
Nothing. He wins.
But the rest of the deck choice wasn't anything too out of the ordinary. I had already explained Bicolor Baku. It did actually, because I remember when I had Leopold Blurl turn, that I had 2 Bakus on the field, and I'm like, if this was Lion, 2 of my units would just be gone now. Like, this isn't the point that I need to retire,
Yeah.
anything anymore. Or sorry, on a Managarmy Aram turn, not a Blurl turn. They would have retired it.
Yeah, Balor kills your stuff. I was confused.
Yeah. So I was just like, that'd just be 2 extra intercepts that I'm just like out of. So that was nice. And then also I opted for the 4 G heal ones. I was actually originally playing 2 and 2.
Same.
But I didn't find myself in situations when I was testing where I would drop the 20k early. I think it might have been more relevant the more Ezels I would have played, but it ended up working out.
I'm actually kind of surprised by that, because I ended up cutting the G heals in my build, or before the ban list anyway, because of Ichikashima, because it meant your G guards did nothing. So you would at least want the 20k shield. Right.
I figured that I would have enough cards in my hand to kind of deal with it. And also in the non-Ikishima matchup, if you can Sandkalpa, you can just counterblast countercharge with Sandkalpa and draw a card. So that's like kind of nice.
Yeah, I love Sandkalpa.
Oh my gosh, it's so good because you just make more circles to give power. I'm like, this is nuts.
And then also fun fact, if you were playing against Chaos, locked cards count as open circles.
Yep. Yeah. I had to get real familiar with that ruling. Luckily, I didn't have to judge when that was relevant, but
right. But you had it, so.
Yep.
So now that the ban list is hit, you got your invite to Worlds off of that, right?
No. Top 3, I believe, gets invites to Worlds.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But got close.
Yeah. And I was going to say, like, okay, so you have this top, we have the ban list. How do you think this affects the deck build in the future?
The Great Nature build?
Yes.
So I think that. So luckily, I would actually consider Ezel a bad matchup that has essentially been wiped from the board. So if I wasn't running G heals, I would, to me, consider putting them in now, especially because like Ikishima's new Ikishima's gone.
Yeah.
Even though we still have the old one to contend with,
well, sure.
I feel like that matchup's going to be less relevant.
Well, you can just play aggressively, and then you have a thing. Because like their main problem was a good first stride, and then now what they will have to do is go into the old Ichikashima and use that second skill to just draw cards, and that's it. Like there's not much pressure that can put on you. So if you can like find a way to rack up damage quick, you should be able to close it out fairly easily.
I think I'm probably going to cut the at least I'm going to consider probably cutting the units that are anti-retire, because if we look at what's probably going to be, what didn't get touched or what's probably going to be topping, it's Luard, Plants, and...
DI.
Gold.
Yes, DI, gas shield. Yeah. I still think gold might make a splash. Because you can put Cure from the main deck still, right?
Well, it's not even that. You can just... So now instead of needing one card to go off, you need two, which is like, that's not super hard.
Right.
You just need the Ezel and Bowman, and you use old Kierf. Or, sorry, standard Kierf. And then just use Ezel still to Soul Blast the Kierf and ride from hand.
Right.
Like you would in standard. Like, so that's what our editor Richard has been telling me. He's like, it's a slap on the wrist at best, because you get, like, it's slightly less consistent, but it's still good because you can just go, okay, ride, call Wonder Ezel, superior ride from deck, draw a card off Excel 2. Oh, look, I drew another Wonder Ezel, call it, re-ride from deck. And that's more based on personal experience than anything else, because the amount of times that man has drawn Wonder Ezel off of Excel 2 is giving me an aneurysm as we speak. So yeah, still a thing.
Get good, Atlas.
I still think Great Nature is very equipped to still deal with the current meta, because like Luard and Plants, you have the hand outlast them. DI can be a little bit tricky. I was fortunate enough to play against I believe he's a KC player who came to our shop challenge. That he's either a KC or Chicago player, and I did a friendly against him where he played the Gasteel loop deck,
right,
and I won that by once again using Spangled to dig for PGs. So
okay,
it can be it. Yeah, shout out to Spangled.
Yeah.
So it still can contend. I think that it may have it will have issues with decks that have, like, for example, like Victor, where it's like you're not messing with their units much at all, so they get still keep their really strong units and scale really well into that second stride. So decks like that, if they do come back, then Great Nature might have a little difficulty with. But if everybody just meta slaves and picks Luard and Plants, then it'll be fine.
I'm actually kind of curious as to why Novas haven't really made a major appearance. They seem like that Bustard Stride seems pretty good.
The only reason I can think of, I was doing a friendly against one of my local players who was playing Victor, and I was testing Gasteel.
Yeah.
That was the other premium deck I had at the time, and it was kind of just like he would have 8 cards in his hand. If I strode first, I killed them. If I strode second, I still killed them. So that might be kind of the reason where it can't handle some of these stronger, like Morfessa turns or Katrina turns.
So a glass cannon?
Yeah, like it doesn't have enough to sort of get to a winning position afterward. So, but I mean, maybe the new stuff will do some good for it. I don't know.
I mean, even just having Azure Dragon is such a good card to run in premium, just because you go, you ride, you get your free draw, you do a skill, you get another card, you get a call and a free attack before you've even strode, which is really good.
That's one thing I like about incorporating the bosses into premium, is that all the on-ride skills, you use the ones that have all the on-ride skills, so you can still get the utility of that and the stride. I think that's cool.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, certainly I have gotten a lot more appreciation for premium format, because it didn't matter if I lost the dice roll. I could still play.
Exactly. I think most of the skill in premium comes from the deck building. Like, it's more on the front end versus within the matchup. I mean, like, obviously there are, complicated scenarios in general, but I think more of the minutia of skill comes in when you have all your cards fanned out on the table, and you're like, Do I take
You know,
That's
this?
the biggest thing
What?
too is finding the cards you need to survive in situations where you're slightly behind.
Mm-hmm.
It's also like really big, like making sure you have that PG or that heal.
And also to go back to when we were talking about maybe why Neo Nectar didn't top, like there's not much innovation there for Neo Nectar in terms of deck building. It's very linear. There's not a lot of surprises, so there's no way to really catch your opponent off guard with it. They're always going to get the same, 6-7 attacks off. So that may contribute to why. And there were a lot of like, especially because you can innovate a lot with Luard. You can innovate a lot with Bermuda. The card pool is huge for Bermuda.
Yeah.
So.
And the same with Great Nature, because Great Nature is one of those clans where Bushiroad didn't pay attention to archetypes much, so the ability to mesh stuff together is a lot easier to do than something like one of the Paladins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this is coming from, like, I've been playing Great Nature since pretty much the beginning, and I'm almost glad they didn't give us, like, a sub-clan that, not counting Honorary Professor, of course, but, like, they never really bothered to try and over-centralize any of their support. They were just like, I don't know, just fucking kill your shit and draw cards, go nuts, I don't care. And then now it's, I don't know, mill your shit, it's fine, go ahead. Like they almost, it's like that, the youngest sibling of 5, where they just don't care anymore, but that ends up being the coolest aunt. When everyone else has kids, because, like, yeah, we didn't try and, convert them to Catholicism because they were the 5th kid, and now they're, like, I don't know, they're cool, or whatever.
Yeah, and I think a card that fully illustrates that, like, you would never, ever, ever consider giving another clan a card like a card like Mike, to get a grade 3. Just get a grade 3.
Your favorite one. Just do it.
Anyone, and it scales so well because it's like, when we eventually get Isabel, and if that gets incorporated in premium, Mike can search it easy.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was doing back in the day. Like, Mike Saburo came out, like, late in or like early to mid G era, and that meant you could just search Big Belly, whichever Big Belly, and also, like, for a while I was running that starter that could just kill itself, the rabbit, where you counterblast rest and then it kills itself.
Yeah, I think Telescope Rabbit was the one I kind of settled on for the most of the G sort of lifetime.
Yeah, well, because
what it costs a counterblast.
It was a counterblast, but you had a guaranteed retire, which means you only needed one card. You needed Mike or you needed Duckbill, and God rest your opponent's soul if you had multiple in a turn. Like, the best feeling is opening with, like, 3 of those and a grade 2. You're like, all right, ride, call out rabbit, call Duckbill, Mike Saburo, pick the rabbit, rest itself, choose itself. End phase, it dies.
Train.
Yeah, end phase, it dies, search a 3, draw 2 cards. Go ahead.
G-Retrain of Duckbill when?
I'm sure it's coming. Well,
Let's go.
Oh, that actually does remind me. One of this deck's main weaknesses is its lack of 10k shields in the grade 1 lineup, besides Monoculus.
That is what I was thinking of, because most of our grade 1 lineup does not matter at all. Even in Standard, you run the Otter because why not? You run the Wolf because why not? Like, there's not really a lot of mobility there. And then in Premium, you have all of these, like, broken search effects. So you're like, whatever, man. It's fine.
Yeah. You're like, oh, man, Silver Wolf gets 4k? Well, my front row gets 20k, so...
Yeah.
So it's that. I've seen some builds running, Binoculus, but, like, this was just more centralized towards the doping and retiring and drawing, because honestly, that's the part of the mechanic I've enjoyed the most with Great Nature.
Yeah, my build is a little different right now. The last time I used it in any significant capacity was this last weekend at Locals, which is like... It was literally 3 rounds because I think there was 6 people for this.
Oh man,
for this premium tournament, but I played against Richard, who was using golds, and I went first, but he still had the whole Kirf thing, so he strode first on me, and I still killed him because Aurum is Bay, and also I use a little card called Field Glass Artery. Do you use him?
I do not use him, but I am aware of what he does, and he is good.
Okay, so my whole thing is it means I can commit without really having to commit. So like I'll plunk them all down on the board, get them successful, and then they bounce back. And especially good if you like put the life insurance effects on there, because you bounce and then draw. So, I saw not for Duckbill and Mike Sabro because they have to hit the drop zone, but for like Big Belly or Crayon Tiger, stuff like that.
Yes.
What's your opinion of Managarm Aurum from Premium Collection as a card?
I really like him. At first, when I saw him at first, I thought he was like a generically good card, but I wasn't sure it was what the deck exactly needed. But when I was playtesting with him, I'm just like, wow, when you're behind this, this additional drive can turn into a real, it can get you back in the game. And against the retire matchup, if they, kind of knock one of your bigger units, you can just like, all right, I'll just call another one. Or I can do like I'll have like a Curious Pony on like an Excel circle, and then I'll Vanish Pony, and then I'll use Aurum to call on the circle that Pony was on. So I actually really like it. And the fact that it has a G-Zone effect, that means that you can just keep going Balurl because that card is insane.
Yeah, one of my favorite things to do for a strat is flip Aurum for the cost of Balurl, and then you're attacking with your stuff like suck the pony in, or you call over something that's gonna die anyway. Like another thing I'll do sometimes is you attack with the Balurl boosted thing and leave your grade 1 booster standing, and then you call the Crayon Tiger from hand on top of it. So now you have a Crayon Tiger column to restand something else, and like there's just so many like different facets of the card that can be used based on the situation.
Another one that I explored was when you lay down all your restanders, your opponent is calculating like, okay, I've got this many attacks until I die. I can defend one. A couple of the matches, what I did is I would call a Big Belly from Aurum, so that would cause them to miscalculate, and they would have had to account for an additional attack.
Surprise, motherfucker.
It came into handy a couple of times where they were either like, oh, crap, that was one off, or, oh, that card does that, and I'm like, it certainly does, my fella. But yeah, I'm very happy with how the deck is right now. Maybe only a couple tweaks here and there from then on. I'm mostly going to be focusing on standard now with the Infinity reveals, but it's good to have in my back pocket, and happy to play
Speaking
my animals.
Of all the new reveals, do you think anything revealed recently, like Raging Tactics just finished and we're starting to get the next set, do you see anything there that you think will be a threat in the future?
So, in a little bit of background, what I do for my locals is I print off proxy decks for every single deck in the game. I've been doing it ever since Standard started, so I've actually had an opportunity to already play with all the Raging Tactics decks. And if I had to rate them, I'd kind of say Tachi's and Spikes are kind of near each other, but I'm kind of putting Tachi a little above right now. Tachi, Spikes, Megas. It's only a little worrying because in the VMC, Tachi had an extremely high representation, but it wasn't in top 4. But I think that Sweeper Krakano, the grade 2, like the broken grade 2.
The one that just doesn't die after 3 gauges.
Yes,
yeah.
That card is so good. That combined with you put the grade 1 that you Soul Blast, give it a gauge plus 5k for each one. Throw down a couple of those, and you're like, okay, I've got an 80k attacker that can restand.
And are you looking at the Tachi decks that are only playing 4 grade 3s, or?
Yeah, I saw that build. I didn't really expect Tachi to be the next Luard, but here we are.
Well, they have too many grade 2s they want to play, right? They just want to we need to play like all of these.
What was surprising about that build is that they didn't include Noah at all. They had Savage Aggressor instead, and
Which is a PR we don't have, right?
Yeah, we do not have that. I think that was from the first Trigger campaign in Japan.
It was
alongside with them.
It wasn't Savage Aggressor. It was God, what's the name? Savage Aggressor is the crit trigger.
My bad.
This is gonna
I don't
kill
remember the
me.
name of it,
I know exactly what you're talking. Grade
Yeah.
Grade 1 gets 5k for every gauge under it, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, that one. It's going to be hard to get that one alongside Stealth Millipede. Go ahead.
Sorry, I have this thing where I just complain about Bushi releasing promos in Japan, then never putting them in English. They don't matter.
Savage
so
Trooper. That's the
Savage
name we were
Trooper.
Yeah, that's the name we were looking for.
I think a hidden gem in that one is I was originally kind of ragging on Bad End. I didn't think that I didn't think it was bad. I just didn't think it was going to be like relevant. I thought it was going to be like, maybe a tech of Bad End with Cyfried and Bullspike, but that extra crit puts in a lot of work.
Yeah. Did you happen to listen to our set review for that episode? For Raging Tactics?
I did not. Did y'all? What do y'all think of that?
During
in a nutshell.
For Bad End, do you know about a card called Good End Dragger?
Oh, the grade 4, yeah.
And you know how the double break ride thing works?
Remind me of the combo.
Okay, so Good End Dragger, after he attacks, he puts himself back in G zone, and then you search your deck for 2 grade 3s, and then you ride one rested and call the rest to rear guard. So if you have a full field, you ride both at the same time, and they both count as being ridden on the original grade 3 you had. So after you attack with Bad End, you put Good End back, and then search for a Bad End Dragger and Bull Spike. You ride them both, you call 2 Bad End Draggers to rear, and you also got 2 force circles out of the deal, and then now because you're on Bull Spike, you can start tossing the ball back and forth.
I like that. That's good.
Yeah.
I didn't hear about that updated one. It makes it really nice with the force markers.
Yeah. Nexus at Night,
Right
the Spike
on.
Brothers podcast? Yeah.
I mean, we could be if we just invited Proof back.
We're gonna. He's always
We can
welcome.
also invite him back for not Spike Brothers.
Okay.
He could just be our 4th co-host.
Please. For so many.
Because that's not going to get in the way with that many people. Plus whatever other guest we bring out. Jesus Christ.
That just turns into a cafeteria conversation.
You're right. That's exactly what happened when he had like 6 on one episode.
That
Oh
was
my
the
gosh.
Murakami episode, and it was awful.
Oh my.
Let's work.
Man,
I
that
had to
was
go and
great
make a
because so many
separate
people were mad
blog
about
post
it.
because we couldn't make any points over everyone else talking.
Yep. Like we're all like this is basically a Seinfeld episode, and then if we get a 5th person in here, it's like that arc where George gets engaged, and then there's 5 of them in the booth at the same time, and like those weren't good episodes, were they? Except
Not
for
enough room in the booth.
except for the one where she tries to get his secret like ATM code, and then he's like hesitant about giving it to her.
Oh man.
I love Seinfeld. So
Funnily enough, my girlfriend has finally gotten me to watch Seinfeld. Like I've seen like maybe a season and a half. I really do like it, and I wish I had started watching it earlier.
I'm surprised you didn't earlier. I have been told by baby boomers my whole life, "Hey, can you shrug for me?" And I was like, God damn it. So I finally read Atlas Shrugged after like, how old was I? I was like 16. 16 years of jokes by old people. And that book is terrible and don't read it. The point is that like,
Yes.
I read it out of spite because of all the jokes. I'm surprised you didn't do the same with Seinfeld earlier.
Ayn Rand is like... the quality of those books perfectly describes boomers.
Pretty much. Oh, and then also...
Okay, I need to go find the Last Week Tonight joke about Ayn Rand now.
Oh,
I think it kind of just like more went to like numbing rather than like, oh, Kramer, and I'm like, haha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Ayn Rand railed against any sort of government assistance, and then when she died, she was on government assistance because she's a hypocrite. Screw her and screw her influencing people like Paul Ryan, and that is not the time for that. So, is there anything else about Great Nature that you would like to impart onto the listeners that you think we missed this episode?
Well, this is kind of a Great Nature thing, but it's more kind of a general thing. I feel like one of the things, I think it's very important to keep meta in mind, but I feel like in order to stay true to yourself as a player, play what you want. Obviously, to like a degree where like you need to like consider what's good or not. But I feel like that when you're at your most comfortable, you're going to do your best. And I feel like that this specific build of Great Nature, which reminded me from a lot of when I played Big Belly and Giera, was, you know, kind of the right fit for not just like the meta, but just for me as a player. So I think it's really important to keep that in mind, because the regionals that I competed where I just tried to play meta, I did kind of less good. But, you know, comfort is something you should consider when playing in regionals.
Yeah.
That is a good lesson to take
I think
with you.
when people get kind of confused, they're like, "Oh, I just don't care about the meta. I don't care if this deck's meta or not." But you have to care about the meta, regardless.
Yes,
of what you're
absolutely.
playing. Regardless.
It's your job. Like a clan so much, it is your job to figure out how to make it work in the confines of, you know, your local meta or the greater regional meta.
That's what true dedication is.
And collaboration is key.
And what we're saying is every time that we make fun of somebody for saying you just have to play it right, don't get mad at us. Fucking prove us wrong. Go to regionals.
Unless you're Murakumo.
The real problem with the "you just have to play it right" people is they actually just don't explain ever what playing it right really means.
I have a Pale Moon deck that can attack 11 times, but I'm not going to tell you what it is.
But like,
14
Fine
times.
then, keep your secrets.
I think it's about time to retire that joke, because you can actually attack 11 times in Pale Moon now.
Look, first of all, it was more than 11. Second of all, no, it's still hilarious.
Is that the song star loop?
No.
Well, at the time, there was no such loop.
Yes. But
So somebody on Reddit claimed that they could make some extraordinary amount of tax in Pelman, which using some old ancient card, which doesn't exist, by the way.
This is from
It's from
like Rummy Labyrinth
4 years
area?
ago now.
Yeah.
I don't even know. Yeah.
Like,
did it involve Gun Salute Dragon?
No.
No.
Okay.
So he then was like, "But I can't tell you because it's my competitive deck and I don't want the secret out."
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was so funny.
It's Vanguard. The card pool is like limited to a degree. People are going to figure it out. At no point.
Yeah.
It was the Vanguard
Point is,
version
never
of
did
My
anything.
Girlfriend Lives in Canada, basically.
It was great.
We will never let this meme die, even if Pale Moon can in fact attack 11 times now.
Yeah, that guy's awesome.
I like the
What's in
idea
there?
of that dude. He like listens to the podcast, and he knows it's him, and he has to carry that secret with him for the rest of his life. But he's not going to tell anybody.
What's in there? Pale Moon 11 attack combo. Can I see it? No.
Only I can look at it in this hat.
Yeah.
And in the deck box is the embarrassing picture of SpongeBob at the Christmas party.
And I know, and we kind of, and I know I kind of memed on it, but really, like, collaboration is super key. I know that I would not have been able to do as well as I did if not for the help of the community and the people I traveled with. So, you know, absolute shout outs and props to them.
That's my favorite part of regionals, is that Friday night where, you know, you already got to your destination, you're in the hotel room or whatever, and you're just talking shop and testing.
Yeah.
And, like, that's my favorite part of any regional.
If anybody's listening and they have not gone to a regionals, if you have the funds or means required to go, I highly encourage it, because I I haven't really had a bad experience in regionals in terms of like, I'm talking mostly about, people can criticize the way it's run. I think it's run pretty adequately, but like the people and the environment there, really, really, really good.
Yeah,
It's a lot of fun.
And way better than Yu-Gi-Oh! Regionals used to be. From
Hang out with friends and play cards.
yeah.
If you want.
If you get time ruled once in Yu-Gi-Oh! In a regional, it just makes you just want to not.
Pretty
My
much.
solution is not playing Yu-Gi-Oh! So.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my solution in
The only
2012.
winning move is not to play.
Yep. Thank you,
Yeah,
War
I
Games.
I was a huge Yu-Gi-Oh! Player back in the day, and I wouldn't say I really jump shipped from it to Vanguard. I played them both simultaneously, but yeah, I think Bushiroad treats their players a little better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a Magic player for most of my life, and then I started playing White Shorts, and then I played Vanguard after that.
Imagine playing a game and getting rewarded for clan loyal. Insane.
What was that?
Yu-Gi-Oh! Players don't get to experience that.
You could play
just
Dante for how many years?
Funnily enough, that was the deck I played.
For like 5 years.
Still can.
They refused
I-
to get Dante for so long.
I was playing Yu-Gi-Oh! During the time where every deck had a Stardust Dragon in it, just because.
You and me both. I was from Teledad to Inzectors. That was my tenure in Yu-Gi-Oh! 2008 to 2012. It was hell. All right.
I remember his
That moment where we've gone so far off topic, we're in like other card games now. So
what you're saying?
what I'm saying is what?
Oh no, go on.
I was just gonna say, I think that about does it for this episode of Nexus at Night. Nem/Kramer, where can people find you out there on the internet for things you have or want to show?
You'll see me probably posting more often on Facebook, and then I have a YouTube channel. It's outdated content. We'll get back to it maybe eventually. It's for our team called Hive Mind Vanguard. You can see some other podcasts, some clan primers that we've done at the start to middle era of Standard. So that kind of gives you an idea, maybe not of like just like the thought that our team and community puts into game. So, yeah.
Cool. And what about Matt and Root Beer?
You can find me at Wiggums, 2Gs, 2Zs on Twitter.
You can find me at Plasma Eclipse on Twitter.
And then you can find me personally at Atlas Novak on Twitter or Instagram, or you can find this show on Twitter or Instagram at Nexus at Nights. And I have recently started posting more memes and stuff, so enjoy that on the Nexus Twitter.
And you're a card now.
Yes, I'm a card. Literally, okay,
For the second time.
Well, Matt has 2 cards named after him. He's got like a Dimensional Robo Pilot Matthew, and then Matt the Ghosty. And
Matt the Ghosty's lame though.
I know. Well, so is Machining Beat Atlas, so we're even. And
Oh man, when I played Thavis, I was excited when a card named Alex came out, and it was a really good stride.
Lucky.
Yeah.
I don't know if there are any cards named Alvin, but if there's ever one that's like Practitioner of Root Beer, I will like literally die.
I highly doubt it.
I highly doubt it also, but a boy can dream. Until next
But
time,
I'm
I
here
was
It will
Atlas.
never happen.
I'm still Matt.
I'm Root Beer.
And I'm them.
And have a good night, everybody.